The Arikara were the first to find maize. A young man went hunting. He came to a high hill. Looking down in the valley, he saw a buffalo bull where two rivers joined. When the young man looked to see how he could kill the buffalo, he saw how beautiful the country was. The banks of the two rivers were low with many trees. The buffalo faced the north, therefore he could not get within bowshot of him. He thought he should wait till the buffalo moved closer to the banks of one of the rivers or to a ravine where there were bushes and shrubs. So the young man waited. The sun went down before the buffalo moved. Nearly all night the hunter lay awake. He had little food. He felt sorry that he had not been able to reach the buffalo. Before the sun rose, he hurried up the hill. The buffalo stood just where it had, but this time it faced east. Again he waited for it to move. He waited all day. When the sun went down, the buffalo still stood in the same place. Nearly all night the young man lay awake. He had very little food indeed. The next morning he rose early, and he came to the top of the hill just as the sun came up. The buffalo was still standing in the same place, but now it faced the south. He waited all day, then the sun went down. Now the next morning, when he arose early, the buffalo stood in the same place, but this time it faced west. All day the young man waited, but the buffalo did not move. Now the young man thought, "Why does the buffalo not move?" He saw it did not drink, did not eat, it did not sleep. He thought some power must be influencing it. Now the next morning the young man hurried to the top of the hill. The sun had risen and everything was light. The buffalo was gone. Then he saw where the buffalo had stood there was a strange bush. He went to the place and he saw it was a plant. He looked for the tracks of the buffalo. He saw where it had turned to the east and to the south and to the west. In the center there was one track. Out of it a small plant had grown. There were no tracks to show where the buffalo had left the place. Then the hunter hurried to his village. He told the chiefs and the people of the strange buffalo in the plant. So all the chiefs and the people came to the place. They saw the tracks of the buffalo as he had stood, but there were no tracks of him coming or going. So all the people knew the Great Spirit had given this strange plant to the people. They knew other plants they might eat. They knew there was a time when each plant was ripe. So they watched the strange plant, and they guarded it and protected it. Then a flower appeared on the plant. Afterwards, at one of the joints, a new part of plant pushed out. It had hair. At first the hair was green, then it was brown. The people thought, "Perhaps this means the fruit is ripe." But they did not dare touch it. They met together and discussed it. They looked at the plant. Then a young man said, "My life has not been good. If any evil befalls me, it will not matter." So the people were willing, and the young man put out his hand on the plant and on the fruit. He grasped the fruit boldly. He said to the people, "It is solid, it is ripe." Then he pulled apart the husks and he said, "It is red." He took a few of the grains and showed them to the people. He ate some, and he did not die. So the people knew the Great Spirit had sent this plant to be their food. In the fall, when the prairie grass turned brown, the leaves of this plant turned brown also. Then the fruit was picked and put away, and after winter was over, the kernels were divided. There were 4 to each family. Then the people moved the lodges to the place where the plant had first grown. When the hills became green, they planted the seeds of the strange fruit. But first they built mounds like the one out of which it had grown. So the fruit grew and ripened. It had many colors, red, yellow, white, and blue. Then the next year there were many plants and many ears of corn. So they sent to other tribes. They invited them to visit, and they gave them some of the new food. Thus the Omahas came to have corn.